Hi all, myself Subitha Sudheer, Assistant Professor, Department of Space Science and Technology, St. Albert's College Autonomous. Today our topic is correlation. So before going to the content of correlation, first we have to explain about what is the need of correlation. So by the heading which mean that correlation. So we are going to study about the relation between the variables. So when we talk about the relation, want to know what we mean by relation between two variables in statistics. So we are using the term relation as in our common life. We are using the relation between father and son, relation between mother and son, etc. So what we mean by the relation in statistics between two variables? That is, we want to check whether there is a change in one variable if a change happened in the other variable. So that is what we mean by relation between two variables. Supposed to be a particular variable is increasing, there is a increment in the other variable also. We can say that there is a relation between two variables. Suppose our variable is increasing, there is a chance of decreasing in the other variable. So we can say that there is a relation between two variables. Suppose maybe there is a decrement in the case of one variable. Suppose there may be a decrement in the case of the other variable also. There is also, we can say that there is a relation between the two variables. So that is what we mean by the relation statistics. That is, if there is a change in one variable which make a change in the other variable is also, we can say that the two variables are related. So in some situations in the field of statistics, there are many situations where you have to check the relation between two variables. So the tool correlation in statistics is used to analyze or study the degree of relationship between two variables. So that is the definition of correlation in statistics. So let us think about what are the different types of correlation. So we are majorly classifying the correlation into three. So the first is actually positive and negative correlation. The second is actually linear and non-linear correlation. The third is actually simple, partial and multiple correlation. So now we are going to explain in detail about all these three types. So the first classification is positive and negative correlation. So now we are going to explain about what we mean by positive correlation. Positive correlation. So like the name indicating, if there is a positive change in two variables, we can say that the two variables are positively correlated. So let us think about what we mean by positive change. So positive change, which means that a particular variable is increasing, there is an increment in the other variable also. If a particular variable is decreasing, there should be have a decrement in the other variable, which means that both two variables have to move in the same direction. If the one variable is going to upward, the other variable is also going to upward. If the one variable have to go downward, the other variable has to go to downward. So that is what we mean by positive relation. So if the two variables are moving in the same direction, otherwise if they are positively related, then we can say that the two variables are positively correlated. For example, height and weight. We know that for a particular, up to a particular year, the weight increases with the height. Otherwise, the height increases with the weight. So that is we can say that the height and weight are positively correlated. If we draw such a positively correlated data as a diagram, so we will be obtaining a diagram like this. So this is actually showing positively correlated data. Now we can see that all the points are moving upward. If we try to fit a particular straight line in between these particular points, we can see that it is moving upward, from downward to upward. So this is showing a positively correlated data. That is, which means if x is increasing, y is also increasing. If x is decreasing, y is also decreasing. That is, height increases, so does weight. So in these cases, we can say that x and y are positively correlated. So this is a particular data showing positively correlated. Here we can see two type tables. In the first table, we can see that the x is in an increasing pattern because the first number is 30, second number is 35. It is going to be, which is show an increment pattern. Also like this, when we come to y also, we can say that there is a increment pattern in y. Then This is a second table which is showing a decrement pattern, but both x and y are decreasing. So in these two cases, even x and y are increasing and x and y are decreasing, we can say that there is a positive correlation. That is, there is only one condition, that both two variables have in the should follow a same pattern. That is, if one variable show an upward movement, the other also have to be in upward movement. If one is showing a downward movement, the other is also have a downward movement. That is what we mean by positive correlation. The next classification is actually about negative correlation. It's just the opposite sense of the positive correlation. So in negative correlation, the both two variables are in a different direction. That is, one should be in upward, then other should be in downward. So that is what we mean by negative correlation. If one in an increasing pattern, the other should be in a decreasing pattern. So that is what we mean by a negative correlation, like the price and quantity demanded. It's an example. It's a famous example for the negative correlation. So this is the data showing a negative correlation. So here we can see that the x following an increment pattern, because the first value is 30, second value is 35, 40, etc., which is going to be increased, but the y values are going to be decreased because the first value is 30, the second value is 25, the third value is 20, should be like this. So if the one variable is increasing, that is, which means x is increasing, y is decreasing, x is decreasing and y is increasing the pattern. Otherwise, the correlation is called the negative correlation. If we plot a particular negative correlated data in a particular graph paper, we can see a downward pattern is following. So this is a graph showing negative correlation. Here we can see that all the points are moving downward. If we try to fit a straight line in between these points, we can see that it is moving downward. So this is actually negative correlation. The third type correlation is actually simple, partial and multiple correlation. That is, we know that the correlation is actually a tool, is working in between at least two variables. There should be have at least two variables for working the correlation tool. But there is some situations where should be have more than two variables. So if there are only two variables, we are using simple correlation. If there are more than two variables, that is, there should be have minimum three variables, we have to move on to multiple, otherwise partial correlation. So this is actually the simple correlation. If we have only two variables, we are actually working with a simple correlation. When a particular variable is related to more than two variables, the correlation is not simple. In that situation, we have to go to partial or the multiple correlation. So the second category is partial correlation. So in partial correlation, there should be have at least three variables. For example, suppose consider there are three variables: yield, rainfall and temperature. If you find out the relation between yield, rainfall and temperature, you have to move on to either to partial correlation or either to multiple correlation. When we come to the concept of partial correlation, what is happening is that we are actually making a correlation between the two variables by making the other variables has to be constant. So here is also we are making a correlation between two variables actually, but there should be have more than two variables by making the other remaining variables has to be constant. In that way, we are finding the partial correlation between variables. The next thing is actually multiple correlation. In multiple correlation also, there should be have more than there should be have minimum three variables, otherwise more than three variables. Here is also we are assuming that there is only two variables by considering it as a single group. That is, we are taking up one variable from the group and by considering the remaining variables as a single group, making the two major groups of variables, and we are considering the correlation between the one variable and the entire group. So that is what is happening in the case of multiple correlation. So let us move on to the third type correlation, linear and non-linear correlation. So linear correlation. So by the word correlation, so it is sure that there is a relation between two variables. That is, if there is increment, there is also, sometimes there may be increment. If there is a decrement, sometimes there may be decrement. So such a relationship exists between two variables. That is what we mean by correlation. So when we come to a linear correlation, it is not simply a correlation. If there is a change in one variable, which make a constant change in the other variable. So that is what we mean by linear correlation. Here you can see our example. Here we have x variable and y variable also. So when we see this particular data, X is an increasing pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But Y is also increasing, but is increasing in a constant ratio. So by using this data of X and Y variables, so we can make a relation that Y is equal to 3 plus 2X. So this particular type of correlation is just not meaning that there is a decrement, there is an increment. It does not mean like that. If there is an increment in one variable, there should be have a change in the other variable, but it should follow some constant pattern. It can be a decrement or it can be increments, whatever it is, but it should follow a particular constant pattern. So that is what we mean by a linear correlation. If there is no such constant increment or decrement, then we can say that that is a non-linear correlation. So any correlative variable can be come under to this particular category, non-linear correlation. If there is a constant change, it will be come under the category of linear correlation. Thank you.